Good morning. Welcome back to the Retirement Report. I'm Hank Parrott, your host. Joining me, my good friend and special guest, Jeremy Reddick with Virtue Capital over in Brentwood, Tennessee. They are the advisor to advisors around the country. Have a number of advisors in most every state. And this is one of the things, as an advisory firm, one of the things we look at is we're looking for resources, tools. Research is a big one. So that we can keep up with all the changes, but also have more than just one tool in the toolkit, so to speak, because everybody's situation is different. You need a plan that's specific to your situation, not some generalized, one-size-fits-all type plan. And there are a lot of considerations that go into that. When we talk about it on the show about doing a comprehensive financial plan, for instance, with my clients, that's what we do with each and every one of them. And if you would like to get a comprehensive financial plan specifically for your personal situation, you can call my office. That number is 615-376-5325. And as I was saying, we cover things. We look at your income, we look at your assets, we look at your expenses, we look at liabilities, we factor in for inflation. We calculate what your tax situation is and how we can improve it with many of the tax strategies that we use. We look at your rate of return on your money, how to maximize that, but also managing risk at the same time, managing the volatility. So we help you determine what is the needed rate of return to accomplish all your financial goals, and then we help you with strategies to attain that in terms of an investment plan and a financial plan. I mean, it's also how you take income. Sometimes this is going to be one of the most important pieces, is how you take income from which accounts and in what amounts when you're in retirement, to assure that you don't run out of money. And a big part of that is how do we minimize taxes, because right, if you're paying less out, that means you're going to keep more in. That's going to help stretch out your money. Rates of return on your money, of course, are important, but managing risk. Tony Robbins, in his book Money Matters, he talks about, in fact, what we call sequence of returns risk. And what that means is when the market is going into a bear cycle, and we're likely to see that sometime in the next, 3 to 5 years, let's say, easily, could be sooner. But in that time frame, when you go into a bear market cycle, depending on how deep, so 2000, 2001, 2002, imagine that period. We had a 10% drop, then a 13% drop, just thinking, gosh, it can't get any worse, and we get a 23% drop in 2002, 46% over 3 years. A lot was going on back then. NASDAQ bubble burst, 9/11, financial crisis that came as a result of that, and there was a mutual fund aftermarket trading scandal thing that also impacted the market. So it was a lot going on that resulted in that. And of course, economically, we went into a recession. So these are the kinds of things that, now imagine you're retiring into that type of a period. Okay, that's the kind of thing that could cause you to run out of money. And in Tony's book, he used an example of someone taking 5% a year from their portfolio, increasing with inflation that income, and that they would run out of money in 15 or 16 years into retirement. Okay, and that's with $500,000 and taking 5% a year, and ended up with only less than $600,000 total over the period, even though they averaged 8.3% return on their investments. But because they took that big hit up front, they never recovered from it. And this is where we know the dangers the sequence of returns risk presents, so we have to have strategies to overcome that. So again, if you want to take advantage of that, just call my office, 615-376-5325. We'll get your information, send you out a checklist of things to bring to your appointment with me. And when you come in to see me, I'll also give you a free copy of my book, 7 Steps to Financial Freedom in Retirement. Jeremy, this sequence of returns risk is one of those that we have to plan for. We have to be thinking always that I need to have, and this is where the comprehensive planning, it's not just about your investments and how, it's not just about, well, I'll just get more return. If the more equities I have, the bigger the return, and I'll overcome the problem that way. But the more equities means that just more like risk. The S&P, that's 100% stocks, and it dropped 46%. That's not the answer isn't about increasing equities, though that may play in. if you have the proper defensive strategy.
Yeah, it's about managing volatility, right? I mean, that's a big part of retirement. And to your point, Hank, if you're going into retirement and the market declines for the first few years, that could totally change how comfortable your living is in retirement. There's no question about it. So having a solid plan to manage risk is so important at any stage in retirement, more so for more people or certain people, depending on how many investable assets that they have. But yeah, managing risk is huge. And to your point too, Hank, you touched on comprehensive plan. I don't think a lot of investors or enough investors realize, there's so many things more than just your investments that need to come into harmony to give you the best opportunity for success in retirement. And looking at it from all different angles, as you touched on, and working with an advisor that has literally the universe of investment options. I mean, if I only had a Series 6, and I'm not knocking a Series 6, I can only offer mutual funds and variable annuities to you. So if you come and meet with me, that's all I'm going to be able to offer you versus, firms like ours, Hank, where we have literally stocks, bonds, mutual funds, REITs, UITs. We don't use all of those, but we have them at our disposal, in addition to being life insurance licensed to offer all of those, safe money alternatives that don't have market risk or life insurance, long-term care. So I think they're important. And the last thing I'll touch on, if you haven't ever looked up the word fiduciary, I would encourage you to do that. There was a rule that was almost passed, but a change in administration, and that changed. And it just simply means folks that have a certain license, like Hank and I, they're required to put your needs above their own. I know that may sound foreign to you, right? But we're required to put your needs above our own. And I think it's important, and it's growing in popularity because more and more investors are learning the difference in working with somebody that has to put their needs and lives by that fiduciary standard. So I just thought that was important to bring up. Most investors are unaware of it.
And this is the thing. So is your current advisor a fiduciary? And it's an important standard. A fiduciary standard is, as Jeremy said, you have to put your client's interests ahead of all others, including your own, and you have to be able to prove that if called to task on it. So we take that pretty seriously.
And they'll call you to task on it, won't they?
Yes,
yeah, regulators definitely will.
We have regular audits that put us through the paces of making sure that we're doing business in that manner. And this is one of the things with, say, a regular registered rep. There, the standard is more that of suitability. And suitability is a much lower standard. I can get you from point A to point B with a bicycle, or I can get you from point A to point B with a nice car, safety, and all that. So this is kind of that same type of approach, if you will. Suitability is such a low standard. They've used the 100 rule. They've used different things you may have heard. All of that meaning these are ways that protect the advisor more so than protect the client, the investor.
Well, and for example, Hank, to give an example of suitability, right, a standard. So if I identified that you, Hank, were suitable for a large cap mutual fund, and I look at two mutual funds, one outperformed the other, and the one that underperformed cost you more, I could recommend that one that underperformed and cost more, and it's still suitable. Right. Because you're not forced to put their need above your own.
The stock and bond mix, they're just looking at there are other factors as far as suitability, but with the best interest standard, there you would have to, in fact, if there was a better alternative, you need to provide that better alternative. There's been a lot of things written on that, one of those being it's not just good intentions. Good intentions isn't enough. You actually have to know what you're doing so that you can, in fact, live up to that standard. One of the things when it comes to investing that we talk about, just like with the stop loss, if you think about it, inflation we started talking about a little bit, and of course taxes. We have to get a handle on those, in particular when you see inflation as it is right now, and your wages are not going up at the same rate. Even on Social Security at 5.9, that's not near enough compared to some of the numbers that we're seeing of double digits. I think, used cars are 42%, I think, over last year. Fuel is, I think, up around, 30, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, used cars almost 25%. Furniture, if you're buying furniture, 12%. Yeah. Meat, eggs, it's up 10.5%. So,
this is the thing. So when your cost of things are going up, right, that means you're going to have to take more money out of your accounts. But in particular, remember, when you're retired, right, you're on a fixed income. I mean, if you're not working while you're still in retirement anyway, you've got a fixed income. You've got Social Security. Yes, you've got some cost of living adjustments. But again, as we just pointed out, they typically do not stay ahead of the actual things you're spending your money on and how much they're going up.
And a lot of
you
people
need to account for that in how much return you're getting on your money.
And also the money that's in the bank right now, right? We recommend you have a certain amount of money that's liquid and in cash in the bank. But if you're worried about the market, talking about inflation, I mean, your money in the bank is being taxed by inflation. Literally, you're losing buying power every day, and especially with what we've seen over the last 12 months and will likely continue on. I mean, the Fed is saying that it should lessen up in third quarter of next year, but they also said that this would be transitory, and now they said this last week that they wanted to remove using that word going forward.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, because they were first talking it was going to be that would take care of itself, reconcile itself by the end of this year. Now they're saying by the end of next year. Let's see what happens then if it gets extended further. Right now, these are some concerns that we need to address, and we're going to talk more after this break about going back to the stop loss overlay, is how this can allow us now to get more equities in and why that's important, and yet still manage the risk at the same time. So first a break. Join us here. We'll be right back on the Retirement Report.